Good afternoon. I'm Armando Cuellar Jr., President of the Weslaco ISD Board of Trustees. This special board meeting is being conducted pursuant to Governor Greg Abbott's suspension of certain open meeting law requirements to the extent necessary to allow for telephonic and video conference meetings in response to COVID-19. Notice of this meeting has been posted online for at least 72 hours. The board is meeting by use of Google Meets and telephone transmission, which allows two-way communication for members of the public during public comments. A recording of this meeting is being made and will be available to the public at a later date. The time now is 12:10, and I call this meeting to order. I'll now begin the roll call. Signify your presence by either video or physical presence. When I call your name to say, by saying here or present. Is this right now?
Present.
Dr. Jaime Rodriguez. Mr. Nieto.
Present.
Mr. Trevino.
Present.
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 Thank you. Mr. Mark de los Santos
Present, sir.
and Andrew Gonzalez. Let the record show that a quorum of board members are in attendance. Item 3, public comments. Item 4, discussion on telehealth, telemedicine services for schools. Dr. Canales?
Board of Trustees, this is the topic is an important topic for us as we move into the upcoming school year. Mrs. Taita had requested information on this, the discussion. Our team had researched it to some extent before the break. Mr. De La Rosa will be presenting on this item.
Good afternoon, Coach Cuellar, members of the board. We initially started having a discussion on telehealth or telemedicine back in January, and we had started doing some research on it at that time. Can I get the next slide, please, Carlos? So again, in January, it was pretty much at the height of the COVID. We were doing research. We wanted to get a hands-on, real life demonstration of this, and I'll get into it later in the presentation. But just the difference between telemedicine and telehealth, even though these terms are used interchangeable, they actually are two different things. Telemedicine refers to healthcare services provided, delivered remotely by a Texas physician or health professional acting under the delegation or supervision of a Texas physician. So that, again, this is a medicine or health visit. Telehealth also is a little bit different, but it's health services delivered by a health professional, certified or otherwise, that's separate from the medical field. So you can have counseling services or dietary services that would be considered under telehealth. In the context of Texas state law, telehealth and telemedicine are mutually exclusive. So I just wanted to point out that there is a difference between the two. However, they are used interchangeably. So next slide, please, Carlos. So my department, along with Student Health Services, Mrs. Kaufman, we have been, doing a little bit of research on this. Due to COVID protocols, we were unable to actually go and, visit neighboring school districts that have that because they were, restricted in their visitors. However, late in May 27th, we were able to finally visit Mission CISD for a live demo, looked at their equipment, talked to the nurses, talked to the staff, see how they felt about it. And at that time, Ms. Kaufman and I were comfortable of requesting or making a recommendation to the superintendent to issue an RFQ when we get back from summer break. The next slide. So what telemedicine providers offer is, of course, they provide school-based telemedicine services to students enrolled in the district and are registered for the program. The parent or guardian must complete a consent form, and that's done, at the beginning of the school year if we already have this in place, or it can be done electronically. But there is, of course, the parents have to give permission. They provide access to equipment to assist the school nurse, and to deliver care, and also to conduct the telemedicine visit. And this, we've seen iPads, we've seen terminals, we've seen different methods of use. But the company provides all the software. The company, the telemedicine company, they will bill the parent's insurance, or they'll bill Medicaid. They do not bill the district. However, the parent or the guardian will be responsible for the cost of the visit at the end of the day. So you'll speak to many of these providers and they'll tell you, well, we'll try to build the CARES Act, they'll try to way around it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the parent is responsible for the bill. Whether or not the company writes it off, that is up to them. They also include mental health services, substance abuse substances, and other counseling services. They are available. So what are our obligations as a school district? So we definitely have to commit to implement the program across all the schools. No one can opt out and say, well, we're going to do it at High and not at East. We have to provide access to all the schools in the district in order to set up, train, and operate the program. We have to give them access. The district also completes all the necessary registration paperwork and front office work. So what we've seen in the district that we visited is the nursing office staff kind of acts like a front office for a doctor's office. They take the patient in, make sure all the paperwork's filled out, put them in front of the computer, and monitor the visit. And if they dispense any medications or any prescriptions, again, our staff is the one that facilitates that and gives them the actual prescription. Some companies I've seen also have dispensing stations. So, we'll find out all of that, what the different companies offer, when we issue an RFP. That's all I had. If anybody has any questions.
Yes, sir, I do.
Yes, sir. Santos.
I know that I had been researching the telemed options that are out there once I saw that other school districts were implementing this in their school districts. And then also at the training that we went to recently, they had some local vendors that were giving out information. And I did ask some of them, I said, does it add additional strain to our nursing department and office as far as the paperwork you suggested earlier and the medication? And in some cases, some of them said that everything's done electronically, everything's done, parents are enrolled voluntarily into the system if they want to, and they also work with our local network of physicians that we have in our area. They can become part of the system, part of the telemed service, and that the medications in some cases when a child is brought in and then finally they're diagnosed, and these are for minor diagnoses, right? Minor illnesses, that they'll go ahead and contact electronically the parents and let them know what the situation is and whether they want them to prescribe the medication, and they can then send it directly to the pharmacy that's already registered on the file. And so some may have this and some may not. Is that kind of what you're saying? Like some of these companies, when they apply, they may not. They're all different. I guess that's my question.
Yes. Again, you're absolutely right. That's the system that you referred to. That's what we saw in when we went to go visit Mission CISD. But yes, I have seen, not personally, I've seen it online where some of these companies actually do have stations where they can dispense medication. Now, whether or not we go that route, that would depend on, what they submit in their qualifications.
Oh, okay. I know that we brought this back up in December, and it makes and of course it makes sense. You got to see it in person and see it actually implemented at the district. And but I'm just glad that you all followed up on this, and I think it'd be a great service. I mean, a lot of districts are implementing it. It'd be a great service for parents, especially since we're still coming back face to face, and we can get a diagnosis for them possibly on site, because some of these companies, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, they'll actually provide rapid tests for students as well, like strep throat, and I think I read that somewhere that they offer that to our nurses, that they'll have that on hand.
Yeah, the system that I saw had a huge say a filing cabinet type apparatus that had strep throat tests. I believe and I don't remember right off the top of my head, but I do believe that they had a preliminary COVID test available too. Similar to what we're doing with the Abbott now. So yes, depending on what they submit, but yes, I have seen that in place, sir.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, sir. Thank you for all the hard work and the information.
Thank you, sir.
That's all I have.
The reason I had requested this, I think it's really a great benefit to our district parents like me and many others who work during the day. Get a phone call from the nurse, your child is sick, come pick them up.
Mm-hmm.
It helps us to do a computer for the parents. It's just a great asset to any district to have, I think, and really puts a parent's mind at ease and know that their child is being taken care of and is seen right away by the time they pick them up from school. They already have a diagnosis. They already have a prescription ready to pick up at the pharmacy. So I see this as a great thing that if we can offer it in our district, great. But I don't know what everybody else thinks, but I see this definitely as a benefit.
Absolutely.
Mike, have we discussed this with our nurses to see? I know I joined a little late here, but have we discussed it with our nurses to see how they feel and how much more work is it going to be for them to implement something like this?
My contact has only been with Mrs. Kaufman. I don't know if she's discussed it with her nursing staff yet, but that is something that she's going to, have to address when we, come back from the break.
Yeah, I'd like for that to, let's get them, some information on this and see how that's going to deal with their workflow and go from there. But let's please get their input on this also.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
So if we decide that this is a good thing for the district, what would we have to do to move forward? Do we need to request an agenda item to solicit RFQs, or what would be the next step to get this going for the next school year if everybody's in agreement?
The next step, what we're doing is as soon as we get back, Mrs. Kaufman will be back. We'll put out an RFQ, request for qualifications, and then just let the different companies submit, and then we can have them present to the board, or we can make a recommendation. It's entirely up to the board. We can, in fact, we could probably talk about that during board planning with Coach Cuet and Dr. Canales. But the next step is to issue an RFQ, just the way we're fair and even across the board, and give everybody an opportunity.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good points. One question I had, I know you said there was going to be additional work for the nurses. I know some of the schools have office clerks, especially the high schools, right? I don't know about elementary schools. Do they have an office clerk that works with the nurse, or just the nurse by themselves?
It's usually a nurse and an assistant.
Okay.
In the elementaries and in the high school. So some campuses, like the high schools, they have an RN and an LVN and an assistant. But the elementaries usually have a nurse and or a medical assistant that assists them in the office.
Yeah. So if I may add to that, Mr. Nieto,
Yes.
in our ESSER 3 plan, at least for year one, we're including 20 for 1 year medical assistance as well. So as we phases in, if it comes to that, there'll be some extra support.
Perfect. Okay.
Good points.
Good points there.
Coach Trevino, did you have any?
Hello? Hello? No, sir. Everything was covered.
Great. Yeah.
I'll wait. I'll wait. I guess I'll wait for the planning whenever we do decide, once we get the RFQs to add additional points.
Good, Coach. Anything else? Okay. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, Coach.
Let the record reflect that Dr. Jaime Rodriguez joined the meeting at 12:17 and Mr. Andrew Gonzalez at 12:21. Thank you. Thank you all for the presentation of the telehealth, telemedicine. A lot of good points were brought up, and we can certainly see the benefits of this program. So we now go to item 5, discussion on 2021-2022 budget and ESSER. Dr. Canales.
Well, Board of Trustees, we're well into planning for the next school year. Mr. Sanchez and Mr. Garlick will be presenting on the budget and ESSER.
Okay, let me get started. Thank you, Dr. Canales, Mr. Cuellar, members of the board. This is another presentation on the proposed 2021-2022 fiscal budget, which will be a 10-month budget, by the way. We, the Business Office, Human Resources and Technology Department, are working on presenting a balanced budget to the Board of Trustees for approval on August 23rd, 2021. It's been a lot of work between the 3 departments working on different areas. A lot of it, technology has been a key on this part as when it comes to pay raises, getting that information together and putting it together with the budget with the accounting department, and with the information provided by Human Resources. But we're working at it, and we're doing well. The first slide after that report the ADA for the last year, for 2021. we had an enrollment of 16,616 students, and we had budgeted 15,288. The ADA that we achieved with actual attendance was 14,986, and with assistance from the state, we reached 15,616. For next year, we're expecting an enrollment of 16,703, which is much higher than what we have right now. But as you all know, we're going to open up schools again for our students to come, so we expect more students to enroll later on. And so therefore, we're budgeting the same ADA as last year, which is 15,200. As well as we get more enrollment, and hopefully things go well with everything going on of the school system right now, not necessarily the school district, but with schools and the state. ADA will improve, as more students will attend school. So we hope to go above and beyond the 15,200 budget for ADA. Next, please. Our budget has to be based on certified property values, because that's what we use to calculate our tax rate. We expect our values to be available by July 25th. So June 21, our values, which are estimated, are $2,714,439,000. That amount compared to the prior year certified values of $2,615,319,000 is a 3.79% increase. So it's higher than last year. The higher the values go up, that causes our tax rate to go lower. Right now, like I said, this is through June 21. We have not had any update. We checked this morning. Nothing was available different. So we'll continue, but I guess then the meeting on August the 9th, we should have better information on that with the certified values. Okay, the tax rates. For the current year, we are at 0.9989 for the maintenance and operations rate and 2 pennies for INS. That's a total of 1.0189. Right now, based on the estimated value that I mentioned, our tax rate is 0.9407 for the M&O and with 2 pennies for INS. We will act as we continue with the calculations, possibly increase our INS rate perhaps by 2 pennies, taking advantage that there will be a decrease of perhaps maybe 5 pennies on the M&O, but we're still on the plans. These rates are not set, as I said, because we have to wait for the certified values, and then we have to wait for confirmation, but the Texas Education Agency will check the calculations. They have a formula they use, and we should get the same number they get, and they will provide that hopefully by the August 9 board meeting. Right now, it's 9407 and 2 pennies, total of 0.9607. Next. For employee insurance benefits, we're not working on any increase to the employee contributions to medical or dental coverage. The employees' $25,000 life insurance benefit continues at no cost to employees. We have done that for many years. And as of right now, we do not anticipate any increases to the district budget for medical benefit, for the medical benefit program. As we get more claims, summer activity from employees attending hospitals and things like that, we'll see whether there's an increase or if it is, how much. Next. Facility needs. As I mentioned last time, we have a lot of facility needs. One of them heavy is roofs. We do have a lot of schools and departments, including this building, that need roofs repaired. We need re-roofing the entire roof and most of the building that we have a need for. And all these roofing needs are not included in the budget right now. We have a list of 3 pages of roofs. They are listed in a priority order. The most pressing ones are listed here. The first 2 are Cleckley Hill Elementary and Rico Elementary. And the estimate of those is around $1.6 million each one. That is the construction cost. And then we'll need an architect for it. It's about a 6% fee that they charge us. So there's a lot of needs. If you can go to the next 2 slides, Carlos.
Mr. Sanchez, question.
Yes, sir.
What were the last 3 schools that just barely got new roofs?
We did Memorial Elementary,
Okay.
Northbridge Elementary, and the Transition Center at Weslaco High School.
Okay.
Those are the
So-
last 3 we did.
And this is the priority list that we need.
After
for-
that, yes.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, this is the next set of schools. beginning with Silva Gonzalez, City Early College High School. This is a school that got built in 2000. We started working with them in 2006. And as of now, we need work with them. It's already 15 years. We have departments, K-West, Stephen F. Austin Complex, Cuellar Middle School. They also have the old library at the Old Library Services Building, which is on Bridge Street. Also the Roosevelt Complex, the Roosevelt Library and the nearby restrooms, as well as the Energy Management Department, the entire building plus portable buildings. The next slide.
Question, is the
Yes, sir.
Roosevelt complex just the area that we're being utilized right now? Not the entire school,
Say
right?
that again? Which school?
The Roosevelt.
Roosevelt. Yes, just the library and the restrooms. The other items are okay.
Okay.
Yeah, the building B, which is the old part of the school, we had renovated it.
Okay.
When we built the other one, so that's still doing good.
Okay.
The total cost for these roofs is estimated at $25,061,000. Plus the architect fees is about 26.5 amount. Well, we would like for the board to consider approving the maintenance tax note to finance these roofs because we really need them. And you'll see another picture coming up soon. The severity, as you know, we had a lot of rains. Rain don't stop, they continue. There's problems on the bottom through flooding and also to the roofs. And as we get penetration into the buildings, that could eventually develop into mold and other problems which affect the indoor air quality of students and staff.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes,
Um,
Mr. Santos.
I'm looking at this, and I know you presented this already before, but in Weslaco's history in the past couple of years, you spent significant amounts of money on construction in different areas, whether it was the band hall, pavilions, or whatever the case may be. Roofs don't go bad overnight. So my question is, why wasn't this addressed in the prior tax note? Why wasn't it addressed when they previously took out money out of the general fund? Why is it now that the roofs, all of us, like 22 of them, 22 items at a total of almost 27 million? Why is it now that they're a sense of urgency? Why weren't they a sense of urgency 2, 3, or 4 years ago?
Well, whenever going back to 2016, when we did the bond at that time, we had selected some of these projects, including the ones we did earlier, as the priority, and then we have some that are listed here also as an item that would take place 3 or 4 years later. So we said, if we can have the bond, we'll do all the roofs at one time. So that didn't happen. So then at the time, so, okay, which are the ones that are more pressing? So one of them was Airport Elementary. Just like we did Memorial and North Bridge, those are the 3 schools that are the oldest schools, besides Margo, which Margo, we already did most of it. So we had to do those first. And that's how we did it. And we did the gyms at the middle schools, at Garza and Cuellar. And those are the first ones that we did.
Because the previous tax lien, how much was the previous tax lien? And because in the past, when I was looking at the 2017 bond proposal that got denied by the public, what the district then did was decide to do the tax lien note.
No,
and then the tax note. I'm sorry, yes, the tax note. And then you also took money out of the general fund. So how much was that combined? That was a significant amount. I think it was almost actually even covers all this estimated construction costs. No.
No, it was about $35 million between what we took from fund balance and the 17 we got from the loan.
Right, 35 million total.
Yes, and we did the project that we did with the maintenance tax were projects that we had listed as priority also in the bond. At that time, we had all these projects listed, and we had a facilities committee, including board members, administrators, principals, and I believe a couple of members from the community. And we went through the needs analysis for, I would like to say like that, needs analysis on the roofs, the schools, and the different, not just roofs, that and the other projects. And then we all voted as a committee to recommend them to the board. And then the board had the chance, a prior board, back in 2017, and they went through them and the board ranked them. And the board said, this is the order we're going to do, and that's the way we did. The order they came up to that vote, that's the way we took care of the projects.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so roofs right now need is 26.5 million, including architects. And we hope we can get a maintenance tax note for that. Next slide. So these are some pictures of some of the roof leaks that we have right now. The bottom left picture is for this building as we come into the boardroom. That's the transition part that we have in the building there. We have some schools and the rains keep coming and I know the ceiling tiles can get wet, we can fix it, but that doesn't take care of the leak that's inside. Sometimes the water can go between the walls, and those are the ones that we might not be able to see apparently through the ceiling tiles. If it's between the walls, that's something that might be causing problems later on.
Hello?
Yes, Mr. Trevino.
Yes, my question is, along what Mark said, you know, have experts gotten on top of the roofs, inspected the roofs, and we're not analyzing or we're not making these projections or these analysis just based off of leaks? Have they actually got up to the roof and seen the condition that the roof is in? I know every school has sections. It's not just one big long roof connected all together. So have we looked at doing this section, this other section, and not having to incur or in ways of maybe saving money here and not having to replace the entire roof?
Yeah. Mr. Americo Garza here, he'll provide more information on that.
Yes, good afternoon, Coach Cuellar, members of the board. Coach Trevino, yes, we have had two assessments done. One of them was a roofing consultant back in the, I want to say, latter part of the first decade of the 2000s. And that was Amtech Consulting Architects, and they did a thorough study of the entire district. And so we had that one done. And then additionally, recently, about, I want to say 3 years ago, we had ERO Architects also come in there. And then it was also included as part of the facilities assessment as well. So yeah, they have assessed the roofs. Some of their priorities, or at least what they listed as priority, we weren't in complete agreement with, and only because in some instances they pointed out roofs where if there are a certain type of roof that has gravel on top of the roof, and they saw that the gravel was kind of getting thinned out, for lack of another term, that we're losing some gravel, they would mark it as a priority where we don't have any leaks in that campus. And so it's just them pointing it out and saying, you need to look at it because there may be something going on. But we did come together and we did come to a consensus as far as the priorities with them. So there has been a
See, my concern, and I know we bring all these experts, and it's only to their advantage to sit here and try to sell us additional things that we may not even need. I mean, especially with roofs, leaks and stuff. It's a lot of it's common sense. So take for instance, Clicker. Have we, you know, if it's only leaking in this section of the area, and all the other areas, because most of these buildings have that hanging ceiling, the ceiling panels, so you can tell right away if we have leaks or not. But if none of those areas are being damaged or there's no leaks, there's no signs of leaks, why would we need to, at this point, invest in the whole campus instead of just doing the main area of concerns and doing the same with the rest of the campuses? That way, instead of looking at $1.6 million per campus or what have you, now we're looking at maybe even a third of the cost, just or even less than that, just to address that main spot. Because again, all these buildings have sections when you look at the roofs.
Correct. And we are considering that as well, Coach. We are looking at the age of the roof. So if the age of the roof is already getting there to the expected life of the type of roof, then we pretty much put it on the list for replacement of the complete roof. Otherwise, we look for options for repairs of the roof if there's still life on that roof. So that's also something that's being considered. And as part of this, it's a budgetary figure. There are some line items on there where we're looking for an assessment. However, going worst case scenario, we're budgeting for a new roof replacement. So one of them, for example, is East High School. There's a line item on there where we're recommending assessment of the roof to see if it needs full replacement of the entire roof. But we included the budget cost as a worst case scenario on there for a replacement of the entire campus.
And I think most of on the priority list, most of those schools that are on the priority list are your older schools. You know, that's why I asked which were the latest ones. And those other schools that were noted on there, they were built about the same time, the Memorial and Airport, and what was the other roof that was replaced?
Norwich Memorial Airport.
Yeah, and those other schools were built about the same time.
Rico, Kleckler, they came in the mid-90s or so. Some wing additions that came in towards the late 90s to those campuses as well. And so, yeah, we do look at the age of the campus. And then if nothing has been done to the roof, and then we take that as being the age of the roof, of course. And then go from there, whether we prioritize it for and mark it for full roof replacement or just repairs.
Mr. Garza, I have a question. When was the Weslaco East Band Hall built? In what year?
We're talking about the new band hall?
The new band hall.
Yeah, the new band hall is about 3 years old.
Okay, 3 years old. Because this week with all the rains that we've had, I did get some videos and some pictures sent in, and that was just pouring. Water was like a waterfall through the roof. And obviously we have instruments in there in the band hall that water hits them, and you know, it's not good. I know it's a new school. It's only 3 years old, you said. There's no reason for a roof that's 3 years old to be leaking the way it was, especially with instruments that are in there. So I don't know what priority you have, the list of priorities, but I think Weslaco East, that new band hall, even though it's very new still, needs to be looked at for sure.
Yeah, and let me correct myself. It may be even newer than that, a couple of years or so since it was complete. However, in this case, Mrs. Taita, we have not closed out the project for that reason. When we close out the project, we ask for closeout documentation, and part of that is the warranty of the roof. And so in this situation, the contractor was not giving the warranty of the roof, so we kept from closing it until we got the full and complete packet of closeout documents. And that prompted them to have to hire another roofer to make sure that they installed the roof per the manufacturer's instructions. And we're in that process right now, the transitioning of completing that. What you may have seen if you saw those videos is possible problems with the roof drains. And those roof drains are coming in through the building and then draining out down the spouts on the side of the building. And so that's what they're looking at. As a matter of fact, I was with them right before the meeting, talking to them. They're out there right now testing the roof for any leaks of the roof, and to make sure that they rule out the roof completely and identify or at least pinpoint the problem to the roof drains. But that's ongoing right now. We have not closed out that project. We want to make sure that we resolve all those problems completely, 100%.
Okay, yeah, sometimes the quality of, I'm not saying, I don't know who the contractors are, but sometimes when we want to go for the cheapest price, it's not always, the best choice. Like they say, lo como bueno, bonito y barato, a veces sale más caro, something like that. But
Yes.
okay, thank you, sir.
Yes.
I had a question. I know Andres kind of informed, we discussed the previous 2017 or 18-19 funding. I think Andres had said it was about 35 million or so, with the previous tax lien and then money from the general fund. I think that was the figure that he said.
Yes, sir.
Well, moving forward, like I said, we can't go backwards, but moving forward, I mean, if this plan's going to be put together, my opinion is that you really need to, like you said, you already have your list. We can't deviate. I mean, the board shouldn't decide what's going to get done. It should be done as far as by priority. So coming out of your office, using your experts, you coming to us and telling us, and I know for a fact, not just because I'm in construction, but I think anybody knows out there that owns a home that your roof is probably one of the most largest priorities that you have. Your roof is what protects your entire house, and it actually prevents any type of deterioration or any type of negative effects that could harm the home later or the structure later. So why this wasn't done the last time, I don't know, but I would like a presentation on what projects were done during the last time. Maybe they can be given to us, or a list. If you don't have to do a presentation, we can just get a list. I'm very curious as far as what was the priority then. And then also, like I said, if you tell us this is the priority now, and if the rest of the board decides they want to go forward with it, I'll support them as well. But we need to just stick to your recommendations, your research, and the list of what you all are offering and saying that needs to get addressed quickly, and not deviate from that. I think, because it sounds like maybe we deviated from the last time.
Yeah, we can provide it to the board.
Along.
I'm ready.
Excuse me, I have the floor. along those lines, whatever work is being done or has been done, what I'd like to know is, has that corrected the problem? Taking the corrective action, one thing, but did it fix the problem? Because I know that we've gone and band-aided some things over the years and the leaks continue. So is this action that we're going to take going to put an end to the leaks? Or is this something that's going to continue and it's just the nature of the beast?
No, Coach, absolutely. We have addressed a lot of the leaks, especially if you look at the roof at airport as an example. There's a lot of leaks that were addressed through the replacement of the roof. Now, this came up before the question, and so it's a large roof, and there's a lot of overlaps of the material that they're doing. There's a lot of penetration to do with exhaust fans, air conditioning units, and lines, and so forth. So to say that it's going to be 100% guaranteed once they leave, no, but they always do come back if we do, or if there's still any roofs present, there maybe, leaks. There are very few, maybe 1 or 2 leaks have been reported. And so as the material is on the roof with a expansion and contraction of the weather, the heat, the rain, cold, and so forth, that's when we may have some separation of the overlaps and the adhesives that they use. And that's where we may see some down the road, but not to the level that we've had in the past. So yeah, those are very minor, something that we've already been trained on to address as well in the future, and these new materials that are coming up. And that training was part of this last roofing projects that we did.
Now, Mr. Ustaita brought up a good point with the band hall where instruments could and possibly, are affected. But along those lines, we've had furniture and other equipment, computers, et cetera, get damaged from the leaks. And knowing that the leaks are there, what are we doing right now, especially that we have this rain? Has anybody gone to locations where we know that leaks exist to make sure that that water is not going to damage anything that's existing in those rooms or wherever that water's getting in?
Yeah, so and speaking about the band hall, they're out there right now. The roofer is out there, the new roofer, it's another roofer that's out there. The contractor was out there yesterday. I was out there with them. We reviewed the leaks. I talked to Mr. Cuellar, the band director, and I did ask him to submit a list of any damages that they have so that we can use that also as part of the closeout process with the contractor as well. Because the project is still open, we still have that leverage to make sure that we get credited or get any items replaced under the contract as well.
What about the other campuses?
On the other campuses, pretty much roofs have been identified already. And the funny thing with the roof leaks is that once it's kind of like a tear on a piece of cloth, and you yank on that piece of string and it just keeps running. So with roof leaks, you start getting 1, 2, and then they start spreading like a disease. It's amazing how it happens. And so yeah, with every rain, we may find more roof leaks. Plus, it may be the same leak that where the water is running onto the joist up on top of the ceiling tiles, and they keep running another direction and so forth, and they leak in a different spot. So that's the hard part about finding leaks when we're doing repairs. But we do have that identified, and unfortunately, and I hate to say it this way, but the teachers already know where the leaks are going to occur and so forth.
That's my point.
And so, yeah, we try to do our best to make sure that we get that the furnitures and any electronic equipment away from where the leaks are. Unfortunately, when we get too many leaks, then it's, where do you go? It's you run out of space of where to put them. But, we try to do our best, just like the vehicles and the flooding that we're experiencing over at maintenance department with the buses as well, where Mr. La Rosa has a move, we move the maintenance vehicles as well to a higher
A lot of
location.
times the principals already know, like you mentioned, the teachers know if something's going to leak. So
Right.
when the rainstorm is going to come in, they move their furniture, or they move those instruments or whatever. Same thing as
Right.
like at the field house when it used to leak, we used to move the jerseys and all that because you expected it to leak.
Right. So again, in talking about roofs, hopefully we'll get to a point where we stop doing roofs once we finish doing the roofing. However, based on the overlap and the number of roofs that we have, it's almost a continuous process. It's an annual cycle of getting one roof or two roofs addressed, kind of like air conditioning as well. It comes to its life. And so we're such a large district that we have to be doing pretty much on an annual basis something.
And I think the report specified that, the report with the facility committee and so forth,
Right.
they prioritize certain roofs, certain schools on the list, if I remember correctly.
Right.
Okay, we
Can I
have,
go ahead and say something, or do you still have the floor, Coach Cuellar?
What do you say? I didn't hear.
what was that? Coach, go ahead.
Can you guys, yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
What I wanted to comment is Americo, I want to make sure, and I want to make sure we don't sweep these things under the rug as far as all those items that were damaged, because in order for the schools like East to replace their things, it's going to be costly, and I don't want, it's not their fault. It comes back to us. It's our fault because that building was not constructed properly from the get-go. So we need to be held accountable for that. And for them to have these continuing problems, are we going to replace anything that was damaged? That's what I want to make sure that we don't just sweep it under the rug.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Yeah, like I said, I've talked to Mr. Cuellar over at the Banquet. I'm assuming that's the building you're referring to. And
Yes,
he
sir.
sent me a list of any damages that they have, because I know his office also leaked yesterday. And he mentioned some equipment, band equipment, and so instruments. And so, yeah, he's sending me that list, and we're going to use that list to make sure we communicate that to the contractor.
And Americo, if you can provide us who constructed that building, because here's the thing: we're throwing all this money around, like it's. I mean, we're responsible for this money. We're throwing all this money around, and we're hiring all these companies for whatever reason. I mean, I know we go through all this point system. We do this, we do that, and it seems like we're not getting the best quality or for our money here. And sometimes we're overpaying these people because they bid, and I'm sure the audit hopefully will show this, that all these companies throw these low bids just to get the price, and then you'll see an X amount of overcharges because, oh, now we need to do this. Now we need to move a tree. It's just things that are insane, and nobody questions anything. We just continue to throw money around. If you can please get us the name of that company for our own sake, and when something like this happens, those guys shouldn't even be allowed. We need to omit them from the ranking system or something, or we need to be notified so that we're not dealing with companies like this, so we avoid these problems.
Yes, Coach, absolutely. So that's something that we use on subsequent projects. We make sure that we check the experience that we've had with a contractor, if they've done any work with us. The contractor in this case is NM Contracting, and it has to do a lot with how they manage the project, because they did other projects at the same time with us. And one of them was the new football field house at the high school. We really haven't had any problems over there, not like this at all. So it points to the management, the administration, and the subcontractors that they use. So yeah, we do keep in a list of the experiences that we've had with these subcontractors and the contractors. And again, I don't know if I mentioned, but it's NM Contracting, the contractor.
Correct, but that information needs to be shared to us. So when it comes time to additional or new construction projects, to make sure that we don't need to be dealing with these guys if we're going to be having these types of problems. 2 years down the road, 1 year down the road, 3 years on that. To me, it's inexcusable.
Absolutely. I agree, Coach. And one of the things that we do through on construction is we get all our foremen of the various trades involved. And one of the things that I tell them is that we want to make sure you inspect as best as you can whatever they're doing and do periodic visits, because we're going to inherit that building, and we're going to inherit the work, and we don't want to end up with major problems 2-3 years down the road that we have to fix in-house. So that's also for us to make sure that we inspect properly what they're doing as well. It's the other inspection.
But I think this audit here is going to bring out that part of the problem is back on us, hiring unqualified people. So we're sending unqualified people out there to inspect plumbing, and inspect whatever it may be. I'm not saying, I'm not targeting one. I'm just saying unqualified people to do these jobs, or to go and we depend on them to be our eyes and ears, and they're not getting the job done either. So to me, that's why we're back where we started, and that's why we're in this position.
Yeah, so again, there's some areas that in this case the roof strings are up high on the ceiling, so we try to catch as much as possible underground underneath the foundations and so forth within our reach, within what we can do. But yeah, we definitely will make sure that we do a better job of that, inspecting the projects.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Americo.
Yes, sir.
Good point, Coach. And I agree. You invest a lot, and then here we are. Back to square one. And one of the things that we used to a practice was to be watchdogs. And we knew that when it rained, start looking, and bring those things out when you do your walkthroughs, so that they're pointed out. And like, we haven't turned over or closed a contract with where we're working at band hall till we fix that problem. So,
right.
Because like you say, once you inherit it and
Yes.
and we're stuck with it, then that's more money. That's more money coming out of our pockets because we didn't write the first time.
Yeah, that certainly
So
becomes
that was
our,
a point well taken, Coach. Any other?
Yes, Coach, my thoughts are that it's kind of tough because the contractors, they use different subcontractors all the time. They don't necessarily go with one subcontractor on every project. So it's kind of tough when you hire a contractor, you don't know who their subcontractors are. So it's going to be tough, because you can't ask them who are your subcontractors going to be. You just hire the contractor and they take care of whoever's going to help them. So it's a tough thing to deal with, definitely. So Americo, I mean, we trust in your expertise, and hopefully things get better.
yes, Mrs. Titan, you bring up a good point. We do make it a requirement as part of the bidding that they send us a list of subcontractors. However, we can't control what they do in the middle of the project or through the project construction. And so many times they change subcontractors because they have a disagreement with their contracts. And so they don't end up reporting that to us or letting us know, we use somebody else. And unfortunately, that's beyond our control. We can't force, or at least make sure that the contractor uses all the right information as they're going through the project. It's very difficult to get that done.
Americo, hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Americo. Jackie brought up an excellent point there, and yes, it is hard to track some of these subcontractors. But I think in for the most part, many of these subcontractors advertise their name in some separate form, or through their vehicles, or through whatever it may be. So if we're using a project manager, or somebody is directly looking over that project, if they need to have that form readily available where they can check off and make sure that they are using the people there that they said they were going to use. And if it becomes something where they switch out people without, obviously, that they didn't inform us that they were going to be using, then that's where we need to start eliminating some of these people, because obviously they're all trying to make that buck. So they're going to they're going to subcontract everything out to the lowest bidder as well. So it turns into a monopoly, and we don't end up getting the best for our money. So I don't know if there's a way that we can actively go out there and inspect and make sure they are using, by requesting additional documentation while the projects are in effect, requesting additional documentation, where they're informing us, hey, we're using this person here for plumbing. We're using this person for electrical. even though they gave it to us 6 months prior, to us approving it or whatever, but things change throughout the process, and that's where they need to keep up their end of the bargain sometimes.
Absolutely, Coach. Yeah, we'll look for better ways of monitoring the subcontractors and ensuring that the GC or the general contractor is not switching, in the middle of the construction project without us being aware of it.
And I know,
Okay, thank you, sir.
Mr. Trevino, I know in the past we had what I guess you might call him a building superintendent or a watchdog. That was specifically what that person used to do, to oversee
Yes.
construction and make sure that, like you were mentioning, that was their primary responsibility.
Correct. No, and I don't know. I mean, I know other districts have them, and maybe we need to look into that, invest in that, because obviously a lot of these projects are falling short. Not all, but some of them are, and it's costing us more money, because now I guarantee you some of the equipment that got damaged over at the band hall, it's not even worth us using our insurance because of the deductible. So we're going to have to use our
Correct.
money to spend to pay for that, or we need to find a way to charge these people back, because it's obviously they're the reasons why we're having to replace some of these things. So we need to find a way where we can legally hold them accountable for that.
True.
Yes.
No, I have none. Are there any questions on the roofing? Okay, Mr. Sanchez?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Americo.
Next slide, please. Okay, mentioned already roofs that are not in the budget. Mentioned the maintenance tax note. One of the keys that we're talking about is possibly having a budget workshop, not a budget, a workshop where the financial advisor or bond counsel can present to the board on the maintenance tax note process, so the board can feel more comfortable on and learning how the maintenance tax note works, the project that we can include, and the timeline for, if approved, when we receive the money, but when we have to spend it and things like that. And that could happen late July or early August, or maybe, and hopefully, if it can be approved on the regular board meeting on August the 9th, have the board approve a maintenance tax note.
So the plan is for, I'm assuming 26 million maintenance tax note?
But that is on the roofs.
Right.
It's a little bit more.
Okay.
And I'll go to the next slide.
Okay.
And mention that students and staff are in an unsafe environment in the areas where we have leaks, the penetrations through the walls, or that could create mold and things like that. We also have HVAC projects that we need, and they're not in the budget, the general fund budget, but we are submitting them through the Texas Education Agency through the ESSER2 and ESSER3 projects. We're going to submit the information to get pre-approval on them, and they will be in that application. We hope they will be approved for us, so that we can get a lot of the HVAC projects done as well, and we don't have to borrow more money for those. Next slide. Yeah, this is a history on the maintenance tax note that we have done. The first one is the maintenance note from 2014. We did an energy conservation project. We did HVAC units and controls at multiple schools. One of the biggest projects was the Weslaco High School. We redid the entire complex, the whole high school, well done. In another school, we did a portion, not the whole thing. Then in 2017, we borrowed 15 million, 20,000. We actually received 17 million because of the way the note was sold in the market. And we did a lot of projects. The one that we listed here. We did electrical work at Margo. We did HVAC and controls at Silva Gonzalez and Calvillo CTE building, Central Middle School, Weslaco ISD High School. We did roofs at Airport, Cuellar and Garza James, and manholes, the all Weslaco High School manhole. We did fencing project district-wide, fire alarms at Weslaco High School and central office. We were able to buy Chromebooks with it. We also did a renovation of Weslaco High School, Weslaco ISD High School athletic facilities. We did the replacement of the turf, Lucky Stadium. We bought some buses. We did provide tennis lights for the tennis courts at Weslaco East, which didn't have any, and we replaced the ones at Weslaco High School. And then also did installation of tile at multiple schools. We also did in 2018 a note for $4,905,000. This note was basically to replenish the fund balance because we bought, as you know, 63 new buses, which cost us almost $6 million. So we wanted to help recover some of the money. We took it from fund balance. We didn't want to deplete the fund balance. So we got the loan so we can be paying it slowly, and we are paying it over the years. And the 2019 note that is listed here is the refinancing we did of the scoreboard. We had gotten a lease when we got it in 2017, and then we refinanced it a couple of years later, and that is what's showing as 2019. As the old note, we have the new note loan with Texas National Bank, our depository bank.
Mr. Sanchez,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
have a question before you go on the previous slide about the buses. I think that Mr. Trevino had asked you the last time we talked about this, if any of the insurance covered the cost for the buses, and you had said yes, it did. So is the insurance going to cover some of that cost, or what, that four
Well,
million?
We did receive money for the buses. We usually insure buses that are after 10 years of life with us. For anything that we had in 2017 or 16, those buses, we were able to get more money for them. The older buses, we got less money. But the money for the buses, we got it into the new year. We got it in the 18-19 fiscal year. So at the time we needed to buy the buses, we didn't have it. That came in, I think, in March or April of 2019. But we did get some money. I can provide the amount of money we received for that.
But you said you had said in a past past board meeting, you had stated that we did receive the money for the buses, but you all put it into a different account. You put it into the general fund.
Yes, yeah, because we got it in the following year. There was nothing fair game that we could do.
And where in the general fund did you place it? In construction or?
No.
Strictly
It was the general fund.
in the industry?
When you get insurance money, you cannot the cost. Let's say that we buy 6 million worth of buses. We cannot get 2 million or 3 million we get on the insurance and get the cost of the buses, but we cannot reduce the cost of the buses. Those remain at the cost they have. There's a specific account called insurance recovery, and we have to set it up. It's a local revenue account that is specifically designated for that.
Yeah.
And so we got it the following year, we posted it in the general fund.
And we can't use that to pay back what the money's for. Usually, the insurance gives you money, you pay it back to whatever. You can't use that to pay this off.
Well, the money's in fund balance. We'll have to get money from fund balance for that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We can't use that money that was given to us from the insurance to pay some of this note off.
Well, we could, but we'd rather not, because this note, we can pay it over the life of the note. And we're required to maintain in our books at least 75 days of money available for operations. In the event that we cannot collect taxes or the Texas Education Agency cannot send us any money because of deal with the legislature, there's no money available. We need to make payroll. So we need to have money available for 75 days. And if we were to take money from fund balance to pay note, it's only $4 million, $4.5 million. It's a chunk of money we take from fund balance. And we might need a project we need to do for construction or something else the board decides to purchase later on that we don't have money for. And we have the money in fund balance. And this one, we already have it as a loan. We can keep it there and pay it slowly. We don't have to take the money and take a chunk out of fund balance to pay it.
But aren't you paying interest on this? Like, is it really saving us at the end? Because you're using this insurance money for other purposes, for covering payroll or this and that, but yet we're accruing interest on this loan here.
Yeah, but the interest is, when we got it, it wasn't that high. A couple of points on the insurance, on the interest rate.
Right. My question was this, Andres.
Yes, sir.
That's what I was alluding to, was that you got the money back from the insurance, you put it into the fund balance. But that's what I'm saying. That money was actually should have gone back and paid off that note, so that way you have a more accessible credit, or having to avoid multiple notes and multiple loans is what it is. They're loans. But that's what I was kind of alluding to. You put it back in the fund balance, so it increases and inflates the fund balance. But that money should have actually gone back and paid off that loan. But the decision was made at the executive level to do it that way, and that's fine. But that's what I'm saying. When we go into this new tax note proposals, we need to look at that and say, you know, how much debt are we accruing, and then versus our assets and versus liabilities, and looking at that. That's something we need to look at as well too, so that we don't push our liabilities so far to the limits that they're already exceeding our actual assets, and it puts us back in a financial, it puts us back in a difficult financial situation. That's what I was kind of trying to allude.
I understand. You know, they will not put it out there. God willing, that will never happen at Weslaco ISD. But
Okay.
the financial advisor will address that information, because there's a limit to how much we can borrow. And they'll cover that in the presentation that they make to the board.
Perfect. All right, thank you.
Andres,
Here's,
in the fund balance, what interest do we gain from the money we have in the fund balance?
Right now, 1%. I'm sorry, 1/10 of 1%, because the rates are very
Very
low.
low.
Yes. The highest one now is 1/10 of 1%.
And when the maintenance notes that we borrowed,
Yeah,
Or
those
at-
is about 2%.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the lowest that we had at the time back
Correct.
then.
okay.
Yes.
Mr. Trujillo had a question.
Yes, Mr. Trujillo.
yes, sir. Mr. Sanchez, and I guess it was voted on, but you know, my concern is when we go out and take these loans and we start allocating funds for this and allocating for funds for that, you know, for instance, the fencing that was done, was that really necessary? We're paying now. Here we are on paying for a fence, paying X amount of money, you know, monthly or whatever it may be, for a fence that probably was not broken. If it's not broken, why have to replace it? So why spend money on fencing? I know if you can give me an estimated amount, how much was it?
Yes, Mr. Trevino. The fence, some of it was broken, they were damaged. America can provide more details on it. A lot of the fence that we covered, the chain link, we replaced all fence that needed to be replaced. We added some new one also, and we did change some into the what's it called, America? Can't remember the name, the fancier type of fence in some areas. The front of the schools to help with the facade, the look of the schools.
The right
In
eye.
the front, wrought iron, yes, thank you. But some of the other, we did replace damaged fence.
Yes,
Yes, I understand that, but to me, it doesn't make any sense. I'm not gonna. I have my home. I'm gonna save money if I want to put a fence at my house. I'm not gonna go out and borrow money and pay interest on a fence. Do you understand what I'm saying? For the facility, yes, you know, there's other things, but for us to go out and spend money like that for fencing, that's hard for me to swallow, because if I can please get a number, how much did we spend, an estimated amount on all the fencing that we did across the district for the facade? See, it just doesn't make sense to me.
About $500,000.
$500,000?
Yes, throughout the district.
Okay. So that's the only thing, is looking at, you know, the community, you know, and that may be why they denied the bond, because they saw some of the things that the expenditures that were listed there. You know, they may have not agreed on this either. So in order for us to sell bonds, to sit here and we need to make sure that the community trusts what we're doing with the funds. And for us to go out and do fences and things, I mean, to me, it's just a waste of money. While, you know, you can repair a chain link fence, you can repair a section or things like that, but for the facade, just does not make sense. So I want to make sure we're not making expenditures like that in the future anymore.
And if I may, Coach, the fencing was primarily part of the initiative for safe schools and the safety of the campuses. We're trying to enclose the properties. In some areas, we didn't have any fencing at all. And so we wanted to make sure that for the safety of the students as well, to make sure that we monitored and we rerouted all visitors to the campus through a main entrance or a certain location, rather than having open areas throughout the property. That's what we did. And so again, in some areas there was the wrought iron fence, and in some areas we replaced the hurricane fencing or repaired.
See, and I'm all for safety, but let's replace it with chain link fence. I mean, a barrier is a barrier. People can jump over that wrought iron fence that got installed just as easy as a chain link fence. What we're looking for here is being effective with our funds, using our money properly. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, we understand. Thank you. Any other comments on this note? Okay, next page, please. These are 6 other main instructions that we borrow money from 2001 to 2009. We borrow from 1.4 million, 3.7, 270,000, a million, 4 million, of almost 5, almost 2. And we did HVAC equipment, furniture and equipment, athletic equipment. Sometimes we did computers. The first scoreboard that we got for the district, we got it through a loan. And we paid it off with the revenue from the football games. We done furniture, again, buses, more the different things that we've done, science equipment. And we've done these projects in small amounts, large amounts. At the time that we did them, we didn't have enough money in the budget, so we borrowed this money to get them. We tried to put money for facilities when we can. Lately, we haven't because our ADA, as you know, has been decreasing. In prior years, when the ADA was going up, we had extra money. So we always budgeted $1 million, $2 million, sometimes even up to $4 million. And we would budget a transfer to the construction fund for facilities. And then we would address fencing, tile, different HVAC equipment, things like that. And times when we couldn't, then we ended up doing the loans. And some of these loans here on this page were shorter terms, with sometimes 8 years, a couple of, I think, 5 years, others 10 years. The last one that we're doing are 15 years. And right now we're looking at 20 because the one for the roof is a bigger amount. So if we have 20 years, we give a longer time to pay it. And that's to put a big hit on the budget as we plan to pay it, because that will be paid from the maintenance and operations budget as opposed to issuing a bond from the tax, charging the taxpayers for it. Any questions on these all loans?
Yes, you know, and I don't want us to sit here and make excuses for the ADA and things. Because that's projected. That's always projected from the beginning, August, through all the budget planning. So knowing that, I think part of the problem, and we're going to find out here soon enough with this audit, is we're so top heavy. There's no rhyme or reason how we pay people. There's a lot of people getting paid amounts that, you know, yes, let's pride ourselves in being the highest paid district, but let's do it in the proper manner, not picking certain individuals to make this amount. I mean, to me, that's part of the problem, that we can't put enough money back into a fund balance or have enough money to do projects, and that's why we're having to get loans to build fences and things like that. You know, I think it all catches up with us, and it's caught up to us right now.
Yes, we've been approving, as you mentioned, good pay raises. So over time, those wages for the next year are higher. And every year with the pay raises, they get higher and higher, and yeah, they're bigger now. That affects more the state and federal programs, because a lot of times it's mostly payroll. What they do, they don't have money for supplies or equipment for the schools. It's all payroll. And yeah, that's affected a lot. You're correct.
So, all righty. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on this slide or comments?
Next, proceed.
Okay. The next slide is a proposal for the proposed budget for the debt service fund. This is the one that's called also interest and sinking, the one that addresses the INS taxes that we levy and money used to pay bond from prior bond that we've issued in the district for construction of schools. We estimate our fund balance for this fund at the end of this year to be $533,000. We anticipating coming to the board on August the 23rd to ask for a transfer of $2 million to be transferred to the debt service fund to help pay the bonds. That would make it a balance of 2.5. And then for next year, with the 2 cents of the rate that we have, we would expect to generate $550,000 on property taxes, $479,000 IFA revenues, which is the revenues provided by the state based on the INS taxes that we collect, and then fees to pay on the bonds. The total payment on debt, the total money available would be $3,565,000. The amount that we have to pay on the bonds is $3,140,000. That will leave us about $420,000 left at the end of the year, on August 31, 2022, on the fund balance. Next slide. This chart shows the pay raises or not pay raises for the last 5 years. Last time I mentioned 10 years, this is only 5. That beginning with 16-17 through 2021. The 1920 was a year when House Bill 3 kicked in. So the state mandated that we had to give higher pay rates, especially for teachers, nurses, counselors, librarians, and then all the staff except administrators. So the board approved to pay between $3,400 to $4,000 for teachers, nurses, librarians, and counselors, like I said. Professional staff were approved to receive 5%. That was all local funds. And paraprofessionals, instructional assistants, manual trades, technical trades, and bus drivers, they got a 7% pay raise from the midpoint of their regular, for each respective pay scale. For the 2021, there were no pay raises. As you all know, the board approved 2 one-time incentive payments in lieu of pay raises.
So, sir, in fiscal year 2018, 2019, everybody just got $700 across the board that year?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So nobody saw any increase in pay. It was just $700 flat for everyone.
Yes, we had hoped that we could do a one-time incentive payment at the end of the year if we had enough ADA for the district, and we did not get it. So since we did not get the ADA, we cannot have the revenues to pay the incentive, so nobody got paid anything.
Okay, so nobody, okay, it's just $700 flat. Nobody saw any increase.
Yes, that's all we got, everybody.
Okay.
Any other comments? Next slide, please. Okay, this is the possible pay raises for Weslaco ISD. I have everything the same except for the top line. The last time I had mentioned to the board that we were looking at doing between $1,200 to $1,500 pay raise for teachers, which would be 2 to 2.5% pay raise on the midpoint for them. So the board said to increase it. So I'm listing here 3% pay raise for teachers on the midpoint, which is $1,150 for each teacher. This would be for all teachers, regardless of the years of experience. You know, some of the districts have done pay raises where they say teachers with less than 10 years get a certain amount, and then teachers with 10 years or more get a higher amount. So districts have put the same amount across. So I'm recommending 3% for teachers, which is about $1,950 for them, for their pay. That is based on 3% of the midpoint for the pay. The pay grade is only one for all teachers. For professionals, as I mentioned before, there's 2.74%. And for professionals on a 230-day contract, like as a central office, we will recommend that our contract days get changed from 230 to 226, keeping the same pay. That automatically becomes a 1.74% pay raise, and then receiving a 1% additional pay for the midpoint. Total is 2.74. For other administrators, professionals that are not on a 230-day, they will get 2.74% pay, actual cash, in their checks. For paraprofessional staff on a 230-day contract, they will get 3.74%, which is the 1.74 of the reduction of 4 days on the work schedule, and 2% extra cash. For paraprofessionals, not on 230 days, which is 226 or less, including instructional aides, they will get 3.74%. And so will manual trades, technical trades, custodial management, energy management, food service, safety, security, maintenance, transportation, everybody else. We get 3.74% from the midpoint. Next slide. This is the information on other school districts. We were able to obtain information on a couple of them different. I've mentioned the information that we had for us. McAllen ID, I had mentioned the amount approved for the teachers was $1,410. Everybody else, 2.5%. Professionals, paraprofessionals, manual trades, technical trades. And on the ESSER stipend, they approved $3,000 to be paid in December. For Harlingen, they approved $1,500 for teachers, professionals 2.5%, paraprofessionals and manual trades, technical trades 3%, and their ESSER stipend is $2,500 in December. I believe that will stay like that. La Jolla had mentioned 2.5%, 2.5% across the board for everybody, teachers, professionals, paraprofessionals, technical trades. The ESSER stipend, I believe, is $2,500 as well. Edinburgh mentioned 2%. We were not able to confirm because they're closed right now. And they haven't told us anything different from a minimum of $1,200 for the teachers. San Benito had mentioned 3.5% across the board. And ESSER stipend will be $500 to $1,000. Sharyland has said 2% across the board. It's a pay raise, and they haven't announced anything on ESSER 3 stipend. Mission ISD, CISD, mentioned on the pay raise approved now, $1,450 for teachers from 1 to 5 years of experience, $1,550 for 6 to 9 years of experience, and $2,050 for 10 years of experience or more. And professional staff will get a 2.5% increase from midpoint, and paraprofessionals and manual trades 3%. And their ESSER stipend will be $1,000 in September and $1,000 in December. I'll let you see them and see, can you have any comments or questions?
I'd just like to thank you, sir, for I know that we had a meeting about this the last time, and I know we had discussed teachers and the amount, the flat amount and flat rates that we're getting, but I want to thank you and the administration for going back and identifying the funds necessary so that we can actually give them this type of raise, because like I said, they've been through a lot. All staff has. So I'm very glad across the board when I'm looking at it from top to bottom, every single staff member really gave it their all this past school year. And as we go into the 21-22 school year, it's going to be very demanding as well, having all the kids back on campus, getting everything back on track. So I just want to thank you for that as far as going back and looking at that.
You're welcome.
Mr. Sanchez, if we want to go over numbers some more before we actually approve anything in August, when would be a good time to do that? In any special board meetings, or when could we get together about this?
Tell me again the beginning to go with different amounts, or what did you say?
Yeah, just to go over numbers and get some opinions on, on if everybody agrees with these numbers or not. What before we approve anything, would we need to call like a special board meeting or anything like that?
It's going to be a workshop.
A workshop, yes. On August 9, we have the regular board meeting in August, and I would really like for the board to approve the pay raises at that time, 2 weeks ahead of the budget, because after we get the pay raises approved, the state and federal funds work on budgeting the rest of the fund. They're waiting for how much is payroll to see how much is not. And right now they haven't done anything on the budget. So we like to have at least those 2 weeks for them to work quickly to put their numbers together so we can come back to the board and present you the overall budget on August the 23rd. So on the August the 2nd, the Monday of the week before the regular board meeting, perhaps we can have a budget workshop at that time.
Yeah, we have something planned for a special call board meeting for other items that will be a full meeting.
Yes. Yeah, we can have it at that time. So
It would
we
be
can discuss them.
it would be another date, so we'd have to pull the board.
Yes. Yeah, and we're working, I mentioned earlier, they're working on their books. And we're trying to come up with the estimated budget with the general fund, with the pay raises that I gave you the information that I presented to you last time, which was up to $1,500 for pay raises for teachers. Everybody else was the same. And they're working right now on that. There was a problem. There was an update done by the company that supports Alio that threw off the calculations we have, so they're having to rebuild that. So we were not able to present numbers now. So hopefully by that time, when we have the workshop, we'll have the information so we can say, this is the budget we have. Yes, we can work with the numbers or less or high or something. We have better information to provide to the board.
Okay, and I just have one request, Andres, if you can possibly to help us understand, can you give us, for the next time that we meet, a report or just kind of numbers on the last maybe 3 to 4 years of the estimated budget and the actual, or what the budget was, and then what actually was spent by the end of the year? Do you know what I'm saying? Like the estimated versus actual costs?
Yes. Okay. When we approve the budget, we come to the board to approve the general fund and the debt service fund. The general fund includes the food service, local maintenance, and all the state funds. Do you want a total for all those things together? Like we have it already in the audit report that says the budget, and we have the initial budget, the amended budget, and then the actual. I can provide information for that, but that is the all the numbers together for the general fund.
Okay.
Would
Let
that work?
me think about that one and I'll email you to see exactly which one, but I wanted for sure see estimated versus actual to see where we.
I'll work on some numbers and I'll send it to you. And
Okay.
that's what you want. That way I can share with everybody else.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
I had one quick question. Who implements these percentages? When this is approved by the board, who actually implements these percentages in the district?
Who?
Like who actually implements the 3%, the 2.7?
Well, we work with the Human Resources Department. They
Okay.
we are the one to provide information because they have the compensation plan and everything else that we have on
Okay.
the how it goes. After the update, we have a file that we get the information. We upload it into Alio, our system, payroll department, work with technology department, and then we load it. So when we start running payroll, everybody gets their amount already. The pay raise is included for every employee. And we
Okay.
check that everybody's getting the 3% or 2%, whatever we're supposed to get, that we get it. And then
Right.
every payroll beginning in September reflect those pay raises.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for the information. Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Sanchez, I personally like how Mission did it this year, the step, for 1 to 5 year. And what I personally like that. I've always liked it in the past, but most of the time, most districts give a regular pay raise instead of splitting it up. I've always liked the step for teachers, especially those teachers that have been here for 20 plus years
More
versus
experience.
somebody that's been here 1 to 5. But again, as a board, and like Jackie mentioned, at the workshop, that's something we can discuss too.
Yes.
As long as the total that we're gonna give out equals the same amount, then we're okay.
Yeah, the total amount for the pay raises for teachers,
Correct.
and that would reflect that some people will get more, some people will get less.
Right, but as long as it's the same amount, the total at the end.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, we'll send information so you all can
And
look at it, how it works out.
And the obvious, and you know what I've always taken into consideration, aside from being competitive, the most important thing to keep into perspective is, cost of living.
Yes, sir.
'Cause it doesn't matter who you are or what you make. When you go try to buy something, we all have to pay the same thing. So we want to be as fair as we can for everyone so that we can keep up with the cost of everything that's been going up
Inflation, right.
drastically. So, yeah, I mean, you're looking at everything. We're very appreciative of that. So thank you for that.
Yeah, especially nowadays. Yes, sir.
Oh, yes.
Thank you, Andres.
Next slide. Okay, long-range facility master plan, we had mentioned before, Mr. Garza touched on it a while ago. We hired the company in 2019, May of 2019. We have the master plan that needs to be eventually approved. It has two components. First one is the assessment of the existing physical condition and needs of the campus district-wide. And the second one was to identify the educational adequacy of all schools. That is something that we need to wrap up. We also have information of a plan that we need to develop a plan for the old gym at the Central Middle School. It's an old building, as you all know. We need to do something with it. We'd like for the board to bring more information to the board to make a decision of what we can do with the building. Also, the old Horton building, which was built in the 1950s, is something that probably needs to be, I don't know, it's got structural concerns, so we need to do something with that. I wanted to do a reminder of that as we discuss facilities. And also, in a workshop with ERO architects, we can discuss the long-range facility master plan. And I believe maybe one of the meetings are coming up, that we can coordinate that, so we can present it to the board as well. Next slide. Okay, these are projects that are going on right now by the Energy Management Department. Some projects have been done by the staff, and some are being contracted out. We have worked at Weslaco High School, for example. I don't want to go into reading everything, but unless you want me to, but we have projects at all the schools. We have 2 pages of information that the Energy Management Department staff is doing, and also working, some are being contracted out. And this is using the current budget from either the Energy Management Local Maintenance Fund or some money for the local construction fund. We have come to the board before, mentioned about the project that we want to do for the summer. And this page, go to the next slide, Carlos. Yeah, there's more projects here. These are the projects being done in the summer by the Energy Management Department. Is there a question? Okay. See, these are all the schools, even the aquatic center, some district-wide items. HVC upgrades, like the last item 17, HVC upgrades for Rico Elementary Collective Health Administration Complex. The board approved the prior meeting purchase of HVC units. These are units that we're gonna be funding through the S3 program. And those are units that are old. This is for the addition we did in 2000 to the Rico and Collective Health School. We added 16 classes to each school. So those units haven't been changed. The remainder of the school, the other classes, we changed them about 5 years ago. And we bought them and our own staff installed them. So we'll just rent a crane and the energy management department staff will install them themselves. So they're working on that right now. As they start coming in, later on, they're going to be doing the installations. And some of the units are for this building. Next slide. These are projects for the maintenance department. Also, painting, repairing windows, a lot of windows, sometimes tile that are damaged. We don't repair the parking lots. Last time we had mentioned when Mr. Trevino brought up the topic, and we worked at the warehouse, transportation, K-West, Calvillo CTE building, the administration, Stephen F. Austin, and also Weslaco ISD High School. There has been done some work over there as well. Go to the next slide, please. And some additional projects by the maintenance department staff. Item N there, it says add an option, removal of 2 portable units, portable buildings at South Palm Gardens. When we came to the board, the last time we had this past Tuesday. The surplus item, we had 2 portable buildings at South Palm Gardens, so we're going to be having those through auction. So hopefully somebody buys them through the auction and we'll have those companies, whomever buys them, remove them from the school. Any comments on either one of the 2 departments, energy management or maintenance for summer projects? Next slide, please. Okay, this addresses staffing needs, requests, and possible vacancies. I mentioned last time about hiring new teachers or staff to replace teachers or other staff that retire or resign. The board has been approving at the regular meetings or special meetings that we've had, and that probably will continue till school start, until wherever we have enough staff for the needs that we have for our students. We had mentioned that we needed 7 teachers for the gifted and talented program. Those are a new vacancy. We need 2 teachers also for the dyslexia program. That is a new vacancy because of the need we have evaluation of the dyslexia program. There's 2 teachers needed extra. We had mentioned an extra orchestra teacher as a new vacancy. We also need an assistant orchestra director for Weslaco High School. There's a slide that follows that has information on it, and when we finish, I'll look at it to show why we need another assistant orchestra director or an assistant orchestra director at Weslaco High School. We also need a second director for the human resources department, which will be a new vacancy. Receptionist for the business office. This is not a new vacancy. It's actually filling an old position that we had. We had a receptionist when one of our bookkeepers retired. The receptionist applied and was awarded the job. So we interviewed for the receptionist. We recommended somebody. We were about the person to come into work, and the pandemic hit. So the person never showed up. So probably now they're working somewhere else. So we need to replace the reception, because besides working in the front, we also help with the processing of accounts payable check, help the department and also the mail, and working with credit cards on gas for the schools and department they use them while they travel. The construction department also needs a secretary. There will be a new vacancy. We were looking at hiring 19 statutory custodians. This will be funded with the ESSER funds, ESSER 2. So 1 assigned to each school when we start school. And then also, as any other staff requests are they coming in, they're being considered. Some of them are being considered right now. That's why we don't have anything else listed concrete to let you know.
It may be an assistant band director at Weslaco High School. Dr. Garcia, can you verify that? And
Instead
not
of
an orchestra, not an instead of orchestra.
Okay. Can I go to the next slide, Sergio? See. Yeah, the information they gave me was orchestra. Maybe it is Ben, but I'll check it.
We'll check it.
This is the information that was provided on the number of students we have between Weslaco High School, Beatriz Garza Middle School, and Central Middle School over the last 4 years, and the number that we have, and which shows that why we need the person. For 2021, we had 121 students between the 3 programs.
Andres, if
Yes.
I can say something here,
Sure.
I lived through this program, and the reason why Weslaco East is going down in their numbers is because they don't have the help. So a lot of the kids are not looking to get into this program because they know that the staffing is low for orchestra. Like I said, my daughters, both of them, they wanted to learn the guitar, the violin. They've been in it for 2 years, but their teachers spread very thin with mariachi at Weslaco East, at the other middle schools. So the encouragement to join orchestra and the numbers are going down, many factors, but one of them is because they don't have enough teachers to teach it. So that's why kids aren't signing up. So I can see that Weslaco High needs another one. That's great. But I also think if we also need to pay attention to why are the numbers going down. And the big reason is because there's nobody there to help with the program.
Okay. Well, we'll look into that.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Okay. Next slide, Martinez. This is the budget timeline. Today is the July 8th, the discussion on the budget. The next meeting is August the 9th. As a budget workshop, it is a special meeting there, August the 2nd, and then hopefully we can have a meeting at that time to discuss pay raises options, as Mrs. Taita mentioned earlier. The last 2 items mentioned August 23rd, which the board approved to set a date for that. We were required to establish a date for the approval, so we need to advertise in the paper. And for that, we need to work with the tax office, Hidalgo County, to calculate a tax rate. We advertise in the paper. We got to follow a procedure by a number of days that we had to advertise before this meeting. Then at that time, after the public hearing, there's a special meeting to approve the budget, the tax rate, and a couple other items that we have. One of them being the final amendment to the current budget for 2021. Another item that will probably be available for that time.
I had a question here.
Yeah, yes.
And maybe Dr. Canales can chime in. When is the timeline for the Human Resources Director? When is that going to be posted? And
Yeah, we're posting.
yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. We're posting, our timeline is we're posting now so that we have the 2 weeks. Mr. Aguilar and Ms. Rios and I are going to be working on July 22nd to take a look at the applicant list so that we can set up the interview committees and make sure that we're not asking people in advance who may or may not apply for the position. And then bring something to the board as soon as we can. Hopefully when we have that special called board meeting, hopefully it's April 2nd when we can get the board there. I mean, August 2nd, sorry, not April. I'm going backwards. August 2nd.
For the job description when it's posted, and then also I know that usually the district likes to use TASB, but you know, I think in key positions like that at the executive level, we need to make sure that we're getting the most highly qualified individuals in those critical areas. So I guess when the requirements are placed, and that's something that I think needs to be looked at by yourself and whoever else you have there working with you to make sure that we're reaching out to people out there within the community or within the system or in other districts to let them know that we're looking for highly qualified individuals to come in and work here at the district.
Yes, Mr. Santos, thank you. We are posting both positions thanks to our board of trustees. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next slide. Okay, this is the ESSER section. This is Mr. Garlick's department.
Good afternoon. I'm Coach Cuellar, board members, Dr. Canales. I'm going to review just briefly the ESSER 2 and 3, the overall amounts, and then I'm going to go into more detail. It can be as excruciating as you like on ESSER 2 and ESSER 3. What you have up there right now is the ESSER 2 allocations, 28.143 million to start with. The hold harmless, which was a discussion at previous board meetings for ADA, 4.496 million, which leaves us 23.647 million to utilize for ESSER 2. And I'm going to talk a little bit about our expenditure plan in a few moments. Next slide. The ESSER 3 is broken down into two parts. There's the initial allocation, 42.1437 million. That is the portion we're applying for right now. The remaining allocation, 21.069 million. That is the part that's contingent upon the federal government release, which they just released that to the state yesterday. So I would assume, depending on how fast the wheels of government turn at the state level, that will come down to us sometime in the next few weeks. So the remainder of ESSER 3, we should get it pretty close to the start of the school year. Those are the only two slides with the actual ESSER 3 numbers on them. You did receive, I kind of boiled it down into a 4-page handout, which is in your packet, just so you have it for reference on all of the areas of ESSER. If you want to go to that, it starts off with ESSER 1, just to kind of a review, in case there's any questions still remaining on that, because ESSER 1 will end this September. There is a carryover year, but the funds will be pretty much expended except for about 20,000, which is left for our PNP, which is private nonprofits, which we're required to provide under ESSER 1. But you can look at those numbers, 6.881 million. Most of it basically went into supplanting salaries for WISD to make sure that during the pandemic crisis, nobody was, job was at stake. The next section there, you have ESSER 2. This will go to September of 2022. September 30th, 2022, but there is a 1-year carryover. And I've kind of broken it down for you in categories. And like I said, for transparency, once we get some board input today and finalize it, get it translated, we will post it on the federal programs page on the website so everybody can see it. So there's nothing hidden away there. There's the total allocation, the ADA hold harmless. Under ESSER 2, we're looking at about 10 million for HVAC construction pre-approvals. The indirect costs, Andreas is allowed to take up to 9.348%, but he's only going to take about 1.9% to manage, to use the funds. 5.554 is going into learning loss type activities. 1.190 million will be with personnel. And then safety and SEL recommendations about 1.825 million. Below that, you see a mention of a potential retention stipend. I was given some guidance to prepare options for the board to look at. And I'll come back to that retention stipend at the very end, because there'll probably need to be some discussion on that. If you look at the next page there, it actually lists out the items that we're looking to fund under ESSER 2. In the personnel area, we're looking at an advanced academics coach to assist with the advanced academics or GT program. That's where the SEL for the LPCs, which we're looking at 6 of them over the course of 2 years to assist with the counselors with getting staff and students back into the building to deal with any needs there. There's some materials for cleaning and disinfecting, SEL programs, and then that's where the substitute custodians are also under ESSER 2. And then towards the bottom there, you can see those are the items that are going to go into taking care of learning loss, and those are estimated costs. Now, those could change slightly, and that's kind of how we're looking to expend the ESSER 2 funds. I'll come back to the stipend, but are there any questions on those planned expenditures?
And I'm assuming, question here on learning loss, we utilized the 20% that we had to out of the total?
ESSER 2 doesn't have the 20% requirement.
Okay.
So it's only for ESSER 3. So we can adjust it up and down. And the reason I have ESSER 3 and ESSER 2 on here is because since we started, the whole ESSER has been a moving target, and we've had some things that originally I told you we're going to fund under ESSER 3. They're now under ESSER 2.
Okay.
And there were some things that were under ESSER 2 that have moved to ESSER 3. So it's been very fluid. It would be a good term.
Okay.
The little codes off to the left on your fact sheet there, those are just the areas under the ESSER FAQ, which later on when we have to actually do the purchase orders and justifications, that's where it applies to help guide people as they do that.
Okay.
ESSER 3A. ESSER 3A is that first 2/3. It's very similar organized. I would draw your attention to the indirect costs. What we've done there is we've actually, with Mr. Sanchez's original estimate, we added $2 million to that, which is to help him manage things within the district, payroll, et cetera. And then to offset that, what I'm going to do, since on my other hat includes state comp, we actually end up offsetting $2 million worth of after-school tutoring, which will offset that from state comp. So it's not in the ESSER, but we are going to fund that, 1/3 of it each year for the additional tutoring that we're going to need as we get the students accelerated and back where they need to be. There are some more additional personnel costs in there, $5.385 million. There's the learning loss recommendations, $14 million. The pre-award costs, that's where one of the roofing projects, which was previously paid for, we're going to do waiting on a pre-approval for that so we can get those funds back. And that's the stipend that was approved at the previous board meeting. That was the $3,000 stipend for the coming year is in ESSER 3 Part A. So if you'll go to the next page, you can see at the bottom, there's some of the personnel concerns. The accelerated after hours learning program, that's where the former ACE personnel, they're going to be working in that area to assist the campuses in the learning loss from the pandemic. They're included there under ESSER 3. We're looking at trying to hire 34 additional instructional aides to assist the campuses in extra tutoring and assisting teachers in tutoring. 5 of those 34 are actually going to be aides we currently have under migrant. They're going to be reclassified under so we can pay them under ESSER. There's also an ESSER secretary there. That's the person, it's really not a new position. In federal programs, there used to be a secretary there, but that position was closed. We'll be reopening it to assist me as far as managing the ledgers and the budgets and all of that going forward. And that'll be a person to assist with all that because the overall program, almost $100 million is going to need some extra eyes and ears to make sure we dot all the I's and cross all the T's. The 20 nursing medical assistants mentioned earlier for the first year, that's where those are coming out of ESSER 3 Part A. You've got some of the construction there, and these are the ones that have to be pre-approved before I can submit the grant. The internet towers, which that pre-approval has been submitted. So 770 touchless hand washing stations, which the state has classified as construction, so it has to be pre-approved. And an additional 300 water bottle filling stations, which are needing for pre-approval. Below that, you've got some safety items. I know it was mentioned earlier, 140 additional air cleaners, 52 air purifiers, some safety equipment for fine arts, food service requests for additional custodian support, food packaging, some outdoor dining assistance as far as the high schools. Also some upgrades to our nursing stations as far as technology and their needs because they're going to they're going to be real central to our getting kids back into school safely. And air purifiers to go on buses. Below that, you've got more learning loss activities. I highlighted in yellow, it was mentioned at the previous board meeting, could we look at something for teachers going back in to kind of pump up their learning environment? Based on the estimate from HR for 1,100 teachers, $100 a teacher, it's about $110,000. So we kind of tried to put that into the budget if we do that. Right below that, it's the C&I accelerated after hours learning. $751,000 is coming from ESSER. And then we're going to pump that up with, over the course of the 3 years, $2 million more from state comp funds. So you've got the other areas there. We're looking at technology, ESL, special ed. Any questions on anything under ESSER 3?
No, I just want to say thank you for looking into that little bonus, not bonus, but the classroom environment for the teachers. It'll go a long way. Thank you for looking into that.
I like to think that we're like the IRS. We're here to help. So forward.
Thank you.
ESSER 3B, which is the last third. That's the last cost. You've got the total allocation there, construction, indirect costs. That's going to be, that's a lot smaller because we put the 2 million up front in the first part. Some learning loss recommendations. There's also another potential stipend. I've set aside funds if we want to use that. If not, we have other needs we can look at, but it's there. And like I said, we'll get to that at the very end.
Is that for the following years?
For follow-on years, yes. And I'll explain that and give you some options, and you just let us know how you want to handle it.
Okay.
On the last page, those are the items we're paying for under ESSER. The second or the last third of ESSER, once that gets to us, a lot of it's going into Americo's HVAC projects. He's been working at narrowing that, finalizing that. Some migrant SEL leadership development, some ESL programs. That highlighted one-to-one Chromebook program. Originally, we were going to put $600,000 from ESSER into that. That's the thing Carlos mentioned on Monday he hadn't told me about, that he may be able to fund that from a different source, in which case that'll free up that money if we need to put it into tutoring or something else once we finalize that. So those are our overall ESSER 1, 2, 3, what's going on with that. Any questions before I go back to the potential retention stipends?
I do, sir. What is the total cost of the money that's allocated for construction and money allocated for HVAC out of the ESSER, the ESSER fund?
Okay, the total cost was 20. Let me get it all here together here so I don't.
Yeah, because I see there's construction like 10 million, HVAC 15.
Yeah, there's 10 million under ESSER 2, and that is pure HVAC. Under ESSER 3A and 3B, it comes out to a little over 20 million, and that is basically 15 million in HVAC, 5 million for the IT towers, and about half a million for the touchless hand washing stations, 770 of them, and the water bottle filling stations, 300 of those. The Andreas had pointed out that due to changes in cost of steel and construction, you know, that there were some concerns about the IT internet tower, so we'll have to watch that very closely to make sure that we can get those projects complete.
Okay, and I'm only asking because I know that I'm on here virtually, but I don't have that packet that everybody else has.
I think Rosemary emailed it if you can take a look at it.
All right, so total with construction and HVAC is like 25 million?
The total between everything comes out to 30.518 million. 10 million of it in ESSER 2 and the remainder of it in ESSER 3.
Okay.
And the majority of it is HVAC, and a little over 5 million is internet towers and student safety type stuff.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Okay, let me, no question on it. Let me go back to address the two areas on stipends. Basically, we're able to scrape together, if the board wishes to do that, do not have to, but we're assuming there might be a concern about retaining our staff, which that's going to be the key to meeting the needs of our students for the follow-on years under ESSER. To do that, I was able to scrape funds together to come up with a total for those 2 years of 4,000 in stipends, which can be split up however you would prefer to do that. So if you want to have 2,000 in the second year and 2,000 in the third year, we can do that. If you want to have 2,500 the second year and 1,500 the third year, the funds are available to do that. I'll shift it back and forth to make it match based on the guidance discussions. The one thing I have to watch is the ESSER 2, because it expires next year. I need to make sure one of the stipends is under ESSER 2, however much that is, to make it fit. And then if I need to move some items back to ESSER 3, I will do that so that we can get it finalized. And once we'll post this on the website.
I was going to say that that's outstanding news, first of all, because I know that we have been pushing for an additional 2,000s and possibly in year 2. So you're saying that we can actually do 2,000 and then an additional 2,000. So one in year 2 and then another $2,000 in year 3. So that's outstanding news, I think, for our staff. And you know, it's a great way to retain our highly qualified staff as well. I was going to ask you, so once that's, I guess, solidified, once we know for sure that that's available, I mean, I'm just gonna throw my 2 cents out there. I think 2,000, like you said, 2,000 in year 2, 2,000 in year 3. That sounds like a good plan, sir. Thank you.
I can massage the numbers however you want. You know, if you want to split it differently, I just went with the 2,000 split initially, but we can move it if you want to adjust how we do that.
And you said ESSER 2 by May 23 or by when?
ESSER 2, the actual grant expires September 30th of 22. Now there's a 1-year carryover. So if whatever we're going to pay out of ESSER 2, I've spoken to Mr. Sanchez, we can pay it out of the carryover. So if we want to have 2 payments or whatever we want to do, but I do need to put some of whatever stipend we have in ESSER 2 and some of it into ESSER 3 Part B.
Okay.
Yeah, and your guidance on if you want, how you would prefer me to arrange that. Any further comments, questions, discussion? Okay, and as I mentioned, I'll go back and finalize this. We'll get it translated into Spanish as well, and then we'll have it posted the first week when we return under the federal programs. So anybody who wants to look at it, they can see it there.
Thank you, Mr. Garland. Good
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Garlic. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. And I forgot I will stand here because Mr. Sanchez does have some stipend related questions. So.
Next slide, Carlos. Just wanted to bring up some concerns we were thinking of based on what discussion we had with the incentive payment, who qualifies, what happens, and things like that.
The retention.
For one, for example, 3 items that happen. Qualifications. Whenever, I'm assuming in maybe in August, we'll decide on the payment time when it's going to happen. But for things for the board to consider is these have to be for returning employees, obviously, because it's a retention stipend. What we'd like to know is how many days does a person have to be employed in the 2021 year to receive the amount? Is it enough that they started working prior to June 30, which is usually the school year, or something different? Payment options. The board had mentioned payment in September. I had mentioned possibility of December and May, or monthly or bi-weekly payments, because maintenance staff, for example, they get 2 checks a month. And so it will be added to their check, and it will become part of the TRS benefits if they want them. Next slide, please. If we go with the 1 payment option, this is where the concerns come in. Looking at 1 payment, if the employee wants to, we know some employees want to retire in December. So we mentioned at the meeting on Tuesday that if they get $3,000 in September and then they retire in December, they have to return all the money. So one of the questions is, if the employer wants to retire in December or any other time prior to the end of the school year, will they have to return the entire amount of the $3,000 back? Or if can the employee be given the option to decline the stipend if they are planning to retire? Because if we know, if the option for the board is, or the mandate for the board is, if you don't stay for the whole year, you have to return the money, or should they not even get it? And give it an option to them. For them to say, you know what, I decline it, I'm returning in December, I'd rather not get it. Or if an employee leaves, and we also discussed, Mr. Starter brought up the comment about if an employee has money left on the account when they retire, can we deduct it from the paycheck that they have left? But if I mentioned if there's enough money available or owed to them. If an employee is only owed $250, $500, I just came up with an amount, or we came up with an amount. Because of the number of days left in the work schedule, there won't be enough money to recover $3,000. So what will we do? What measure will be in place to collect the remaining balance? Another is, so all employees sign a document agreeing to work for the entire year during the stipend amount or be legally required to return it. I discussed it with legal counsel, Mr. Sepulveda. He's going to be looking at some ways to evaluate how to handle the situation if we continue with the one payment. Perhaps an option to do that is making it two payments. That way, if the employees retire in December, they get to keep half. So they get a payment, they keep that one, and the second payment, they haven't gotten it, so they don't have to worry about returning that one, as opposed to having to save the money in case they retire or something happens in delivery. Those are just things to consider as we come up with the approval in August. And I have two more. Next page, please.
Mr. Sanchez,
Yes,
before
ma'am.
you go on,
Mande me.
because I'm looking at the title is retention. So like you said, the whole point of this is to have teachers stay. So the new teachers who are going to start out the school year, we're not retaining them because obviously they weren't here. But so they're not going to get it because it's a retention stipend. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes, ma'am.
It's on there.
Okay. So then the people who decide that they want to retire in December, well, the whole point of this stipend also is to retain them for the whole year. So if they want to leave for halfway through the year, we're not retaining them. So I don't see how this would be a retention stipend for them because we're not retaining them, they're leaving.
Oh, okay, I agree. So then, should then the stipend be paid until the end of the year, in May, when they finish the year? Yeah, I intend, and I agree with your point, except this, by giving the money up front, it might make it hard. I believe you mentioned it yourself. I hope they invested well, so they have it ready to return it if they leave. So if they get it, and they don't stay the whole year, so they have to return the whole amount of money. So then don't put them in that predicament of having to protect the money, don't spend it. Something comes up to spend the money, and then what are we gonna do with that? Wait to pay it in May then. They stay for the whole year, they get the payment in May.
And I
They
think
leave in December, they don't get anything.
that's something we can discuss again.
I know, I just wanted to bring it up,
No,
not to
Yeah.
consider
Yeah.
something come up. And,
It is something to think about.
The agenda
Definitely.
item.
Yeah, the team.
And that's what I had recommended, half and half. But the survey from staff employees said they wanted it in September. But they don't realize that if you resign or retire in December, then things can occur. But when you split it, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, and the intent of the questions is just to make sure that we try to not leave any stone, unturned and looked at. So at the end of the year or at some point, the board is put in the position of, okay, what was meant, for this. And if you all think of any of the questions and things that may arise that we need to consider, that we consider them upfront, so we're very clear with our employees.
I'm assuming you're going to cover also employees that have to leave because they're sick or any other, illness, or is that on, you're going to discuss that also?
Yeah, I had it here.
Okay.
For example, the item workers' compensation, so they get the check. And when they're out, they haven't started the year working, or they've been out for a while, so they get the check. That's something to be discussed as well. And the other one is an FMLA. For employees in FMLA, they're not working, and they haven't been working for a while, or perhaps they come back to work for a couple of weeks, and I started the year working, and then go back to FMLA. Just like that's gonna say things to consider.
Okay.
And like I say, somebody gets sick, there's nothing they can control.
Correct.
So how we handle that part? Just so that when Dr. Canales mentioned something happens, we already try to plan ahead, so we know what the answer will be, and we're legally correct in everything that we do, or any action we may need to take at that time.
Okay.
Okay, any comments? That was just information.
No, I just want to emphasize the word retention. We're doing this because we want them to stay with us, not because, that's the whole point of this ESSER money is retain our teachers, stay with us. So it's important we have them stay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andres.
Good presentation. Mr. Garlic also, both.
Well done.
All right. We'll now go to item, what are we next?
6, will be to discuss A, personnel matters, Texas Government Code 551.074. 1, employment of personnel, certified professional or non-contractual personnel. 2 resignations. 3, deliberation regarding the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, Texas Government Code 551.074 and 551.071. B, deliberation regarding acquisition of real property, Texas Government Code 55.072. And C, consultation with attorney regarding a pending or contemplated litigation. B, a settlement offer. Or C, a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the Weslaco ISD under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, Texas Government Code 551.071. The time now is 2:10, and we will go into closed session. The time now is 2:40, and we're back to regular session. And we'll go to item 7. B. Before that, I'd just like to let the record reflect that Dr. Jaime Rodriguez had left the meeting at 1:15. Are there any others that are no longer virtual or whatever? Everyone else is still?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So let's proceed. And item A, possible action if necessary on items discussed in closed session, a closed meeting. Number 1, discussion and possible action on new employment, certified professional or non-contractual personnel. Dr. Canal?
Board of Trustees, I ask that you approve the recommendations for certified professional and non-contractual personnel as discussed in closed session.
So move.
I have a motion by Mr. Isidro Nieto.
Second.
And a second by Mr. Jackie Sustaita. Let's take it to a vote. Signify your approval by saying aye when I call your name. Mrs. Sustaita?
Aye.
Mr. Nieto?
Aye.
Coach Trevino? Mr. De Los Santos?
Aye.
Mr. Andrew Gonzalez? Motion carried. Number 2, discussion and possible action on resignations. Dr. Canales.
Board of Trustees, we, as discussed in closed session, there were no resignations.
No action.
No action.
No action. Number 3, discussion and possible action on acquisition of real property. Texas Government Code 551.072.
Also no action item.
That takes us to item 8, adjournment. The time now is 2:43. We are adjourned.